Suddenly there's this upsurge in like Arab talent being recognized, electronic track that has some smatterings of percussion that are more Arabic in style, and a guy who's talking on top of it with a Saudi accent. Nobody has ever heard anything like this before. Drums, if you don't get some of the rudimentary parts into your routine earlier, you struggle to have any form of expression, deliver within the context of a five-piece band. Not everybody wants to hear you just going crazy all the time. This was the town that you were from. This was the football team of these 6-7 towns. You support this team. You support another team. You get picked on at school. It's all about supporting what's there for you. One time it was almost like if you do a radio edit, it should be 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Now a radio edit is 1 minute and 30, 1 minute and 40 seconds. Almost not music. You know, you can have an intro that's a minute. Vinyl sales last year were higher than any year previously in the 2000s.
That's good to see the Chameleon finally getting the recognition and the credit and the dosh. I mean, because for years they didn't. I remember there were a couple, I don't want to get, up to you if you want to get into names. You brought in a couple of acts who did well in Liquid. We loved them. Tried them in BJs. The crowd they didn't bite.
Yeah, they didn't
in the
bite.
same way.
We did try.
Yeah.
It's not for lack of trying. We tried to introduce house music more and more into BJs, but it's not that there was a resistance. I think people just wanted more of a mixed bag. So it wasn't just, it was like you could drop 3-4 house songs, but then give us a bit of R&B, and give us a little bit of this, and give us a little bit of that. Today, they call DJs who play that kind of music open format. That you play many different styles of music.
Okay.
And that you'll drop different things at different times. And they'll get a smattering of everything, like going to a school disco.
Yeah. That's how it used to be back in the day. Yeah. Then you'd have the slow jam at the end of the night and all that sort of thing. Then the joke track. And, But there was a place like that, wasn't there? I don't know if this is kind of entirely relevant. They called it school disco, and this was successful in England. And they'd play a bit of cheese. They'd play the kind of thing you'd literally hear at school in 1973. And they got quite big. I don't know what happened to them recently. But
I think
there is so much room, conceptual room. There are these spaces exist, and we can occupy them. We can fill them. We could fill them with cartoon theme tunes from Arabia if we wanted. There's room for everything.
Absolutely. And I think in the UK you have a generation probably a little bit older than us even that still wants to have a little boogie once in a while.
Oh yeah.
And so they hire DJs who play what they used to play, and so they'll do a little bit of school disco, and then they'll play a little bit of classic hip hop, and you'll see a couple of the 67, 68-year-old going for it.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a bunch here if we could just get hold of them, if we could just access them.
I think many people here are a bit more conservative about being out in a party.
Yeah, being seen. Yeah. What's unique about here, though? What's unique about the region? Okay.
About the region?
Whichever's easier, Bahrain or the region.
So we were kind of talking about it yesterday.
Okay.
I've been away since 2010. Toward the end of 2010, I started spending a lot more time bouncing between Dubai and Bahrain, trying to find myself in something else.
Yeah.
And I didn't. And we had big plans for Formula One here in 2011. Of course, we all know the unfortunate situations that happened. But I left in 2011 to pursue a different opportunity, away from music and away from venues, because I actually closed all the venues end of 2009.
Do you want to talk about that briefly?
It was
if mass marketing has an influence upon marketing for music, does it really? Up to you.
Look, to be honest, running venues, because we were running concurrently all these venues. Although there were managers in each place, you're very much deeply involved in everything. It takes a lot out of you because you have a day life.
Yeah.
You don't sleep all day. You wake up, you go to work, you have things that you have to do, and then you have to go into the night, and you have a nightlife. Many people just sit at home and have fun. You know, I didn't see my friends for the best part of 10 years, maybe more than 10 years, because when they were having a barbecue at somebody's house, and we might pass by later, I was already in the club. 9 o'clock, I'm in the club. I'm not crying about it, but that was my life.
Yeah.
So you get to a point where I think the pressure from friends, family, you know, certainly it wasn't maybe so pronounced, but it was like you could feel that it started to become difficult for me. And I was getting older, and I was going to be a father too. You know, now Lila is 13 years old, going to be 14.
Wow.
And my son Tarek Tico is going to be 11. So when I moved to Lebanon, part of the deal and I moved with McDonald's. So I did a year of training, and I had to do other things as well. I had to do some other things to sort out my legal status with my Turkish passport and all this other stuff. So that was a kind of, not a cutoff point, but that's where I kind of moved back to the bedroom. You know, everything moved back to the bedroom, and I started to do other things with music. I never gave up on it, and I was always buying stuff and always doing stuff. But my focus became something else, and I was there to work in a business that was quite serious, very serious actually. The time we were going through a lot of difficulties, and I was always involved in the scene in Lebanon as a punter, going to the clubs, seeing the guy. I know many of the club owners. I know many of the DJs. Now many of the new guys I don't know, but I mean all the guys who were there before. Going to the venues, listening to the DJs, seeing the guests that they brought. Lebanon, when I was first back in 2012, there were maybe 2 electronic music clubs.
Okay.
Before the explosion in the port in 2020, we probably had 8, 9, maybe 10 underground music, techno, house clubs, more techno actually. And the number of commercial venues was kind of, I wouldn't say decreasing, but they didn't have the same prestige that these venues did. And today, we're seeing now a kind of a cycle turning again, where more commercial venues are coming back, but there's still these 5, 6 anchors that are still very much there and very much important to what's going on in people's lives. And people took those decisions that I am going to this place because consuming culture is important to me. I'm not just going to drink and party and dance and forget about my worries. I'm actually consuming culture. This is my culture. This is something that I enjoy. So I really appreciate that that's happening. And I think that in Dubai, I've seen an underground, more underground activity happening again. It's starting again. And it's starting with more sustainability, because I'm sure that the guys who were involved, they had that drop, they had that fallout. When you fall hard, it's hard to bounce back. And then, of course, what's happening in Saudi Arabia, a greater openness and an acceptance that this is youth culture, this is music that they love. They need to be able to express themselves. It's not about drinks. It's not about drugs. It's not about all this other nonsense. It's just a bunch of people who really want to enjoy this music, and we need to give them the space to do it. What's happening out here, I think, because it all started somewhere else, we almost have a chip on our shoulder that we have to do it better. We have to do it with a little bit more, you have to research it a bit more. You have to the competition is so fierce that, how am I going to be a little bit different? How am I going to differentiate my thing from that thing? And I think that it's not just these regions that I'm talking about, because I know them the most. I don't know the rest of the Arab world so well. Egypt is coming up big time. There's a scene in Syria. There are a lot of Syrian producers and musicians and DJs who are in Berlin.
Wow.
Who have gained acclaim. Tunisia is waking up. Morocco is waking up. And I think that what's interesting about the Arab world and electronic music is that it's starting to have a voice of its own. It's starting to, it is very cold in here. It's starting to have a voice of its own. So you'll hear an electronic track that has some smatterings of percussion that are more Arabic in style, or let's say a more Saudi beat, for lack of a better way for me to explain, and a guy who's talking on top of it with a Saudi accent, speaking in his Saudi dialect from Jeddah.
And he's singing.
Nobody has ever heard anything like this before.
Ever.
So this is now people who have a voice, not just playing records from, all these older producers that we know from the States, from the UK, from Germany, from wherever, but actually now producers saying, I'm inspired by this, and now my voice is going to be heard. Yeah. And maybe my records will be played in London and in New York and in Berlin, where they deserve to be played. There's a big, suddenly there's this upsurge in like Arab talent being recognized in London. Yeah. There's Nouria, and there's this, I wish that I remembered her name. She's a Lebanese DJ who's also plays Arabic music and hip hop and this and that and the other. And they're getting really intense crowds going ballistic for this. They love it because they've never heard anything. The fact that you throw in a vocal that nobody's ever heard before is blowing minds. You have also a DJ from Palestine, Sama Abdul Hadi, who has risen big time. I mean, she just catapulted. She did a party in I forget which city it was in Palestine, but she did a party which was sponsored by Boiler Room, and Boiler Room is one of the platforms where there's the DJ and everybody's hanging out in the DJ booth and they play a party. After that, she got so much interest in her, so humble, so down to earth, and all she wanted to do all her life is just to be able to express herself through music. She is on the biggest stage in the world right now. Something to be really proud of. Yeah. So there is a lot crossing out, there's a lot coming in, and there's a lot cooking in the region. And I think we can expect that the younger generation, a person like myself, we're here to kind of support and guide more than anything. Yeah. And how much can you guide? I can only guide so much. Yeah. They're going to learn it themselves. They're going to do it their own way, and they should. So and I don't really want to just be a backseat passenger, but I'm happy to be doing what I'm doing. So this is one of the reasons why we did this room, is to be able to give voice to these up and coming artists, be they from wherever they are in the region. Yeah. So I see that. I mean, if we look at, I don't want to get into politics because that's another thing altogether. Unfortunately, it affects our lives so much in Lebanon, not so much out here. Yeah. But I feel that the politics of the region is going to change, is being driven in a very positive direction, away from conflict and away from destructive elements, more towards building bridges, connecting people, connecting economies, and any country, including Lebanon, that doesn't want to join the party is going to find itself crying in the background, because no one's going to wait for you. But I feel that this current generation of artists, promoters, musicians, everything, they're going to give way to a scene that is going to have an even bigger voice, because they're going to be people who are going to come up listening to them are going to say, wow, I mean, I don't even know Masters at Work. I know Vinyl Mode. Yeah. He's the guy who produced this track, and that's what I love. I don't know. I know Anmars. I know Baloo. I don't know, Johan S. Yeah. I don't know. Who's Johan S? Oh, yeah, I heard of Tiesto. It's not my thing. I like this guy who's from my town. you know, and it's like, Scott, it's like football. Football started, you know, this was the town that you were from. This was the football team of these 6, 7 towns. Yeah. You support this team. You support another team. You get picked on at school. You know, it's all about supporting what's there for you. Yeah. And in the past, we were kind of, music generally was not it was respected. I will not say that in the Arab world music was not respected. Fayuz and Kalsoom, Abdul Halim Hafiz, etc., etc., etc. They're all deeply respected. But if you weren't at this level and you were playing in a bar or in a club, you're just, you know, one of these guys, a loser or whatever. What kind of person wants to be that? I mean, so you there's nothing in between. You can only be a superstar or you can be a nobody. Yeah. I mean, it's not right, you know. And so it would push people away from doing that maybe as a career, if not as a passion or a hobby. It scared them. And not every parent is going to support this hobby or this passion. Some people might actually want to take it away from you. You know, I had a lot of support. Both my parents, you know, they really, really supported me in different ways. But even if it was with a kind of, I wish he wasn't doing that. But they did. But it's better that he's doing music than that he's on the street getting in trouble or doing something else. Yeah, you know, I was always busy. I actually from getting music into my life, I've never I don't find myself bored because there's always something that I have to be doing. You know, going through tracks, listening, organizing.
There's so many places to end. It's been brilliant.
My involvement in music, which is a passion for me, it's not really my business.
Okay.
Even when I was in Liquid and in Level, in particular, Club 7 was different because we had a partner, and I had to make sure that I tried to make a profit. Yeah. We did make a profit. Wasn't enough for them. And I paid my rent in Level, and I paid for my electricity, and I have no regrets. I barely broke even out of Level. I didn't do it because I was doing it for money. Yeah. I took a very very small salary to buy records. Mm-hmm. I think in Liquid it reached maybe around 150 dinars a month. Oh, so I was earning a salary from my work. Yeah, and it was fine as long as I wasn't living hand to mouth every day and every week and every month. I was fine. I didn't need more. I didn't feel I needed more, but I felt a drive that I have to keep going. I have to keep doing this until I got so exhausted that I had to kind of step back and focus a little bit on life. Yeah. Focus a little bit on being with family and raising children and all this. I would say, let's keep an open mind about what's coming. Yeah. And I like to look back, but only to look back to see what can happen in the future. Yeah. The future is so big. I hope to see a greater acceptance of musicians and DJs and artists by the society that they live in, that they get appreciated for what they're doing, that what they're doing is cultural, is valuable, and it takes a lot from them to do it, and just to be respected in society for what they're doing and appreciated and loved. And inshallah, we'll see this region emerging in our lifetime. I hope to be here and seeing it growing more and being a better place to be, and not like what I always said, which is it'll be a great place to live when I'm 90. You know, no, you know, I chose to live in Lebanon, and I chose to be back in Bahrain because I have a lot of love for Bahrain. Yeah. And I have a lot of love for Lebanon. I have a lot of love for the region. I could have chosen to be, like many people, to immigrate to Europe or the States or whatever. It just wasn't, I didn't find myself there. So I hope more people will stay, more people will come back. Yeah. And build a greater future for future generations. Okay. That's it.